Hello everyone, my name is William Botwell. This is my History 325 final paper project presentation. The topic I chose for my paper was 19th century Chinese immigration. The thesis for my paper was, I'll just read the thesis statement right on my paper here. It's the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882 was an irrational attempt to solve largely only perceived social and economic issues stemming from Chinese immigration, brought on more from pure racism than solid evidence, when in reality Chinese were key players in helping to build America strong during the Industrial Revolution. So it's kind of a wordy sentence, but the reason I chose this topic was, frankly, I didn't even know about the Chinese Exclusion Act coming into this course, so that was kind of interesting to learn about, an eye-opener. I did know from previous schooling that the Chinese immigrant workers were a large help to building up the Transcontinental Railroad, so I found it a little surprising that we decided to almost entirely exclude these Chinese immigrants around that same time period. So in my paper, one of the sources I pull to argue this is from a man named George F. Seward. His title of his paper is Chinese Immigration and its Social and Economical Aspects of 1881, so 1 year prior to the Chinese exclusion. In this paper, he actually has an interview that I drew out of that was with a railroad business owner of this time, and he discussed how he simply just couldn't keep enough manpower through the white workforce to keep up with the progress that they need to make with the Transcontinental Railroad to get where they needed. So the Chinese, it was largely construed that the Chinese were taking jobs, and that's how the media tried to play it out, but according to his account at least, it wasn't the case at all. They were providing supplemental labor. The white workforce was keeping their positions, and the Chinese played their key part in the development of the railroad. I discuss how the portrayal of the Chinese immigrants through the media was largely inaccurate. So as we saw from the course, there was a lot of cartoons and things that they were heathens, just generally construed as bad people, they eat rodents. So I pulled it's actually a sermon from James D. Normandy, a documented sermon called Injustice of the Chinese, from 1892, so 10 years after the Exclusion Act was enacted. And he discussed from visiting the San Francisco area himself, and then through some other accounts on how what they witnessed, how the immigrant Chinese were behaving, was how he describes what we'd say like very Christian-like manner. They were rarely seen swearing or drinking, and always well kept and clean, and it's just nothing like what they're trying to be portrayed as through the media. And also talk about how the Chinese exclusion, all it really did was create an illegal immigration market. I use a report from Thomas J. Scharf. It says it's called the farce of the Chinese exclusion laws. So really, it wasn't the Chinese weren't causing a real social or especially economic problem. It was more of a social thing and a political thing, and that's apparent through the business standpoint. That they were providing a service to business that was still needed, and even with the exclusion laws, they're finding ways in, and the companies were finding ways to hire them. So nothing really changed from a business standpoint as far as that goes. And then also I used a source from William S. Wells. It's just called Chinese Immigration from 1879. So what I discuss here is what he talks about anyway is it's not just a racial thing, because the line drawn. I discussed that also, how the Irish immigrants were doing kind of a lot of the same things on the East Coast as the Chinese were on the West Coast, but why we decided to exclude the Chinese was the race line was a lot easier drawn with them than the Irish, but also not the heritage, but the culture of the Chinese was described as backwards, but it's just a lot different than what we're used to in the United States at the time, and as far as all Asia for that matter. But we use that as a tool against them rather than trying to understand it or embrace it. We turn it against them, as they're just too far different than us, and that's what I discussed out of that source. So overall, just kind of my thoughts on the course, and it was a real eye opener for me. I had no idea how against immigration, I guess you say, over the years the United States has been. Because I always think of the U.S. as being built on immigration, open immigration. So all these different topics we learned, where there's all these conflicts and everything, was real surprising to me, real eye opener. So definitely look at immigration a different way, and it's still something that's very relevant to the today. And as I discussed in my paper, the Chinese labor workers, and that's something that kind of resonates all through today and through the Mexican immigrant workers. And the thing that comes down to, there's a need for their work. They wouldn't be coming here if there wasn't a need for them. And we just need to find a way, and I guess we attempt that with the Bracero program, but that was just an epic failure, as we learned from the course also. But I just think there's got to be a better way we could come to a resolution on these issues, because obviously over the years the immigrants have helped build America up to where we are today. We wouldn't be so powerful if it wasn't for that. So it's been a good course. I wish everyone else the best of luck in your future studies, and thanks. Bye.